And now moving on to our next panel. So in the pandemic, we saw that how the pandemic accelerated the pace of digitization, accelerated the pace of collaboration and also upskilling of people. So here is where our next panel comes in, and they're going to be discussing the future of logistics as well as supply chain management as far as startups are concerned. And to discuss this, I will invite the moderator for the panel, Ms. Poorinma Shenoy. She is she's a CEO of Hummingbird. She's also a author of Accelerate Her Business. That's I think it's quite amazing to have an entrepreneur and a author rolled in one. She's also on the board of National Stock Exchange, IT, which is quite amazing. So, I would now request Poorinma to introduce the rest of the speakers for the panel. Thank you, Poorinma. Yes, I will request all the panelists to come up on the dais, please. And I think the next panel is starting. I will request the audience to maybe conduct their conversations maybe outside the hall or please have a seat. Can I request the audience to please sit down, because we are planning to be on time, and I think this is an amazing audience. Thank you so much for being here. Folks, can we start? Should we wait? Yeah.
So I'm so very nervous to be hosting this panel of such illustrious folks that I've written down everything so I forget nothing. So the topic for our panel discussion today is supply chain and logistics challenges for components and electronics. If the electronic sector has to go, the components has to develop and the industry has to develop in India. So we have about 45 minutes today. We are planning to wrap it up in 30 minutes because we very much want audience participation and audience questions. So we are planning to leave at least 10 minutes at the end for audience Q&A. So in the last 2 years, electronic product manufacturers have faced huge shortages of components available and lead times of more than 1 year for many parts. End product manufacturing like cars, smartphones, consumer and telecom have all got affected. As we do not have local component manufacturing, we depend on imports of components, and due to limited flight availability, logistic costs have gone up and dollar appreciation has made it much more expensive. Today, let us understand these challenges and how to manage this situation, not only from a startup perspective, but also from a mature company perspective. We have real industry veterans and experienced folks on the panel. This is the first time that they have come together to speak on the subject. I will introduce them by name, then I'll request them in the same order to speak about themselves, their role, and what they are doing in this space. First is Saritha Poovanna, Managing Director, Bosch Automotive Electronics. Then Sanjeev Keskar, CEO, Arvind Consulting. Omer, Founder, CEO, Virtual Forest. And Devaraj, SG, VP Supply Chain Management at Tejas Networks. So we have the multinational, we have the Indian company, we have a public company, and we have a startup. So I'll begin with Saritha, tell her to introduce herself, and then request Sanjeev to take on from there.
So good evening everyone. It's really a privilege to be part of this panel discussion. I missed catching up with you all before this, so maybe after this I can catch up with you all in more detail. So I'm Saritha, I head Automotive Electronics for Bosch India. In India, in automotive electronics, we manufacture PCBAs and electronic control units. So control units for engines, for safety, for telematics and for body electronics as well. And we also have global support for research for automotive electronics handled out of India, a large part of it. Well, these supply chain issues, of course, were very challenging for us as well. And while we have, I would say, a large percent of our mechanical parts which go on to control units localized, all our electronic components are imported. So definitely what started off as not being able to deliver customers on time also came with a lot of increase in material costs, logistics costs, and this impacted us really badly. I would say what this came with was also an opportunity, because it really made us question the way in which we had designed the supply chains, the way we had made our operations, the way we had designed our operations. And it really made us delve a lot into what can we do differently. And I would say that is what happened, we started looking at what can we do differently in supply chain, how can we de-risk our supplier base, what can we do within operations for more flexibility to be more agile. And I think that's what most companies did as well. And I would say that today, any person, company, industry body or even government body is actually intensifying efforts to make sure we can de-risk the supply chain and focus more on local manufacturing. So we can only get better from where we are is the way I would like to put it. Over to you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sanjeev. Keskar. I have spent almost 30 years in semiconductor industry. I was country head of National Semiconductor, then I started AMD in India. I was country head of Freescale Motorola for 5 years. Then last assignment was with Aero Electronics as a MD for India. And then I thought after 35 years of career, I should focus something on Make in India and startup support ecosystem. So 2 years back, I started my own consultancy, Arvind Consultancy. And today I am CEO of that organization. And I am supporting startups and Indian electronics manufacturing ecosystem. Having worked for 30 years in components and particularly as a salesperson, I have really seen Indian manufacturing ecosystem evolving over years. And we are going to discuss more detail about the challenges what we have faced in last couple of years in supply chain of electronic components, why it has happened and what is the way out, how the company should plan. So we'll discuss more about it in next questions. So nice to be here with all of you today.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Devaraj, Vice President of Tejas for supply chain. I'm in the industry last 30 plus years in the industry. And but the current challenges what we are experiencing post-COVID and pre-COVID, that's where the difference comes in the picture. Today, even many places, I'm not sure, our colleague just mentioned the challenges in automobile. Similar challenges is existing across the electronics product manufacturing industries. And this is a journey and was taught a different way of managing the things, which we may discuss in for the course of the questions. But having said that, the lesson learned is really shareable with the rest of the people over here. But it's a good and a bad experience to put together. Maybe we will in the question section we can mention you that the rest of the things. It has an impact in terms of availability, in terms of cost, and both are impacted. There are cases where the quality is also impacted in the whole journey of in the last 2.5 years. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Omer Basith. I had a company called Virtual Forest. Like my illustrious panelists over here, we've also been subjected to several rejigs because of the component shortage in the last couple of years. And as a startup, we've had to probably use slightly different strategies than the larger companies over here who have considerably more purchasing power. I'm sure we'll go into those things as we move forward. This supply chain disruption, the various challenges we faced in the last 2 years have presented significant opportunities for startups, and our company has certainly benefited, as a corollary to the hardships of some of the other companies. We benefited from this. I mean, there has certainly been a major push to localize supply chains, and that's meant opportunities for local manufacturers and companies like ours that design electronics, specifically in areas that have otherwise been completely dependent on imports. I really look forward to learning so much from my illustrious panelists this afternoon, and hopefully I can give you a perspective of a company that's just a couple of years into this business. Thank you.
So I've done my homework, guys, and come. So I'm going to give you 2 questions each, at the end of which I hope the audience has more questions for you. So Sanjeev, let me begin with you. What do you think, in your opinion, are the key reasons why this situation, this logistic issues, this supply chain issue, why has it arisen? What, in your opinion, is it?
So, semiconductor industry, we have seen demand supply going up and down, and particularly in commodity products like memories or some type of capacitors and passives, we have seen there is a shortage, but we have never seen what we have seen in the last 2 years. It is unprecedented. Means in 35 years, I have never seen such type of situation in component supply chain industry of electronics. There are 3 key reasons why this has happened. Firstly, because of COVID, everyone started working from home. Even kids, schools were closed. Kids were working from home. Their schools were operated online. So suddenly we saw a huge demand for connected devices like laptops or smartphones or tablets. That demand really shot up globally, and because of which the companies like Intel or connectivity companies like Qualcomm and MediaTek, they saw huge demand which they were not anticipating. And they immediately started booking foundry capacity with TSMC, UMC. All the wafer fabs were overbooked, and that has created a sort of a shortage and panic situation. That is reason number 1. Second reason, what has happened that China particularly, they were anticipating sanctions from US, and then semiconductor is something which you cannot produce overnight. It takes a lot of time. So they started booking and stocking large amount of components for their manufacturing requirement for all US components, and that created a huge demand. But because of these 2 reasons, there was a panic in the market. All manufacturers, they started feeling that they will not get parts for their manufacturing. So whatever distribution channels are available, whatever supply chain channel available, people started booking with all the possible distributors, and that has created a multiple bookings. Means earlier, if I am buying from a distributor A, now I am booking my orders on 5 distributors, and those 5 distributors are booking orders on Texas Instrument and ST Micro, Infineons and Intels of the world. So even the manufacturers were not sure what is the real demand and what is the parallel demand coming in, and that chaotic situation also created a lot of confusion. So these are the 3 main reasons: COVID shortage because of connected devices. Secondly, China stocking huge inventory for their manufacturing, and third was multiple bookings by almost all manufacturers. And this really created lead times which were normally at 12 weeks have gone up to 60 weeks or 80 weeks. Part which was available in open market for $10 was available at $50 or $100, and people were paying that. So that supply chain situation I have not seen before, but now things are coming back to normal. So those were the 3 key reasons why this situation happened.
Thank you, Sanjeev. I think you brought it down to the real facts. So Saritha, I have a question for you. I mean, Bosch is a leader in the automotive electronics assembly space. Did you have any challenges, and how did you at Bosch manage these challenges? How has technology helped you manage the supply chain challenges better?
We had many challenges, and they were all caused by the reasons which he was mentioning, and it was just, I would say, fluctuating like this. So it was very difficult to really work in a very planned way. So while we also spoke already about delivery and cost challenges, I would say the effect of the supply chain issues was also largely felt in operations, and I'd like to maybe talk a little more about that. What was happening is we ended up in a kind of stop and go kind of production, So whenever parts come, you just have to produce. Maybe we used to have fluctuations with extremely high peaks and extremely low troughs. So what this meant is that the infrastructure, the machines, the people had to be built to the capability where they could be flexible to that extent on a day-to-day, sometimes a shift-to-shift basis. And this became one of the biggest challenges that we had to handle, because once the components were there, we have a global task force, so they help us with ensuring component availability in the regions based on what the suppliers give us. So it was very transparent. So the moment components come, people expect you're basically doing some miracles and making sure the parts are out as soon as possible, and this was really, really challenging. Hence, we intensified the efforts a lot on building this kind of flexibility into our machines, as well as I would say multi-skilling our associates so that they could work across different areas and on different days as well. This actually gave us a very, very good benefit, and I have to say our customers supported us a lot on this because they knew why we were trying to do this, and they also supported in the approvals and validations and all that in a much shorter lead time. The other point is the point of technology I would like to dwell a little on. I think going forward for the kind of supply chains we're going to have, having integrated end-to-end solutions is really going to be imperative. And while we have a structured program for I 4.0 in the entire value chain in place, I would say the last 2 years this gained a lot more impetus. For example, we brought in a lot of solutions, advanced solutions for traceability at component and finished good level. We are in the process of projects for supply chain network design as well as establishing digital control towers. We are doing data-based pull with our customers and our suppliers. For efficiency purposes, we went intensively into RPAs and digitization. So these kind of things gave us a lot of improvement potential, I would say, which freed up time to work on other projects. I have to also say that every time we wanted to bring in place one of these solutions, we had to take a very balanced call, because you can imagine things were getting more costly and we had to spend money on these kind of solutions. So every time we wanted a solution, we had to take a balanced call whether the solution was really going to make business sense. We couldn't just blindly go in for digitization. I would say the collaboration we had with both internal and external partners in developing these solutions across source, make, deliver in the value chain also helped us a lot, because we got a lot of fresh ideas in improving the supply chain itself, and I think that's how we were able to manage. Definitely keeping the people motivated through all these highs and lows was also very challenging, and this was something we had to be very, very mindful of as well.
Thanks, Saritha. Devaraj, Tejas is a leader in the telecom space, and you have unique challenges of your own. So, how did the shortage of chipsets affect your lead times?
I would like to mention that most of the people are in the COVID period, they work from home. To people has to work from home, we have to work from office, our workplace. The network connectivity either by wireline or wireless, we provide the solutions. We could had a great journey of last 2 years, working all the days in the office, which we can witness the days where we are single vehicle moving on the road to the busiest days. That's what our journey. So coming back to the situation, that exactly the rest of my colleagues mentioned, that we had a serious challenges of the components. It is, as Sanjeev mentioned, that in the past the parts were available anywhere between 12 to 16 weeks, which is already started hitting some 60 to 90 weeks. So that were the challenges which we have come across, which made the whole things work in a totally different way of working. And we used to work with low-hanging fruits concept we have arrived at, which is the least component which can converting into a cards or the build a product. That's the concept we build into that, so that we start converting those low-hanging fruits in terms of number of shortages, low shortages, addressing that in a focused way, and reach. End of the day, your relationship with the component vendors is really matters. up to what reach you have. As you grow higher, you have chances to reach the CMD of the company of any of the company. In this journey, I think we have touched upon every chip manufacturer in the world who and supporting for the chips. It is only the allocation process and your degree of influence which anybody can get a chip with a limited capacity available. As Sanjeev ji mentioned that just now, that the reason for COVID is the basic reason where the company has shut down, maybe depending on their countries. There are cases of 2 months in India in the start to from March 23rd to June 17th, maybe start 3 months in India, maybe many places is went up to 6 months or 9 months. As the closure is extended by any good reason or repeated closure will continue, the capacities availability is lost. Again, the usage of connected devices, previously in a house, maybe 1 or 2 laptops, followed by 1 or 2 mobile phones, which is multiplied maybe 4 or 6 depending on the family size. Everywhere the demand is such, but the shortages continued because of the COVID situation. So in the whole journey, we have learned that the best thing is maybe once upon a time the organization feels that inventory is a liability which is converted into asset at that kind of time. It's not only the organization, every distributor, every stockist, overall had the inventory. I think really they are sold at a price which is 1x, 2x, 3x, depending upon their capabilities. Again, it's a demand and supply challenges. Anybody come across in our situation. Even the traders, I think they also sold the way they can sold it. It is purely opportunity cost with the need versus the supply. So we have no difference in the whole journey. We have used all the tools which is available, including the highest level of the organization, the chip making, where we can get a allocation, apart from using all other distributor or the trader, every tools. And the focus is that how we can connect to the server with customers' requirement, which is a really demanding at this kind of time. So in the whole journey, we have engaged with multiple contract manufacturers. We depend on contract manufacturer. We don't have any in-house manufacturing facility, especially on the PCBA is concerned, means the populated PCB. So one is the capacity, the second one is availability of people. There is a 30%, you have to work for 30% occupancy, 60% occupancy, 90% occupancy, on full occupancy as the journey of last 2 years, which was made us to think in totally in a different way how we can have an agile manufacturing process where the flexibility is the only way where you can bring the on the table to get delivered to the customer. Again, coming back to the cost factor, the lead time as we said is dramatically increased. Fabs are not available, even available overworked for years together. So we never ever heard in the last 40 years of experience in the industry where we can talk about a lead time of 70 weeks, 80 weeks, which is totally unacceptable one, but it's a reality. So even when you go back to your customer says my network is down, we give a service of 99.999 times of serviceability, where the products is not there is the question of serviceability. But we made every effort in the whole journey, including everybody, including the senior most organization, person in the organization, within our organization, to the chip vendors, we have connected. Even the connections is really delivering required results. We are not demanding how much we require for the quarter, we are demanding how much is required for the week, which makes so that the chip manufacturer can share the ration the available stock within multiple customers so that everybody's needs are met. This was the journey what we have undergone with this. But again, cost is a very crucial factor which is impacted. I'm not sure how individually impacted. Most of the people are impacted in the whole journey, including the product, end product is together. If you talk about a chip of $100 is available in a chipset, it is going at $600. It is a 6 times. No one can believe that it can go like that. And I don't want to mention people. There are many cases. The chips were going at auction. So bidding was going on. Who are the highest bidder? He takes chips. That is how the whole industry is gone. But having said that, complete ecosystems of electronics there is no ecosystem available within India. So there is a high importance at this point of time to develop ecosystem, including the PCB. We don't have ecosystem. Available PCB layer is up to 12 layers or 14 layers. We can do better in India. But anything for higher technologies where you are talking about 4G, 5G network equipment is required. Okay, for that, even 38 to 60 layers is too small. So where there is no ecosystem is not available, 100% you have a dependency on outside India, maybe China, Taiwan, you name it, outside India. So the recent government implement and government program of PLI, okay, production linked incentive schemes, I think many people are exploring how to get into this. This is a real opportunity available on the forum for any entrepreneur to take this forward. Thank you.
Thanks. I think you said some very pretty hard facts. Okay. So we move from a public limited company to a startup. So Omer, as a startup in the design space, how do you think you can enable industry to reduce overall product pricing and improve the ease of manufacture?
Well, design plays a very, very important role, specifically in PCBAs and products, electronic products per se. And unfortunately, just like how there is a massive lack of an ecosystem for components in India, there is largely a lack of success stories when it comes to electronics solution design in India as well. Specifically in segments like home appliances and, to some extent, even EVs. That's changing, of course, and that's the area that we work in. So during the last couple of years, when a lot of companies were facing severe shortages, we were given opportunities to try and execute projects which otherwise perhaps would not have come to us at the time. So some of the companies that we dealt with, some of the large OEMs that operate in the home appliance space, were completely dependent on imports. And when the chip shortage happened, they had two options: either buy products at the black market at 5x, 10x, whatever the costs were, or try and execute a redesign to include components that were available. Now, a lot of them believed that this just wouldn't be possible. We didn't have the capability in India to design hardware and software that would work for large-scale consumer appliances and work in very, very large numbers in the field. But the reality is that since their back was against the wall, some companies did execute projects of this nature. And this is how we were able to assist. We were able to create solutions that replaced the imports that they were dependent on, utilizing components where the supply chain was not as constrained. Components were available, and this is something which really helped them in some way during the shortage that happened a couple of years ago. But moving forward, this is a trend that I think is now gaining a lot of is starting to happen a lot more in a lot more applications. People are looking at local designs, are trying to bring in local manufacturing, at least some component of local manufacturing into their supply chains. And that's one way that design is going to play a major role. That's one way that Virtual Forest, our company, has certainly been able to do work with companies, assisted them with their supply chain and cost challenges. And I believe design is going to be one of the major areas where startups will be able to, in a low investment, low capital intensity, way be able to become a part of this ecosystem. And I believe that's going to be a major part of the entire process moving forward.
Thanks, Omer. We have about 15 odd minutes. If the audience has questions, we can take them, or I could ask the panelists another set of questions. Are there any questions from the audience? We'd be very happy to take them. Okay, so let me ask you the next set of questions. So, Devaraj, I want to start with you because you made some pretty strong comments. So, what has been the cost impact on chip components due to the shortage of chips and thereby on the products? One is the time delay, now we're talking about the cost impact.
The cost is clearly exponential increase. I would say, other way. It is not in terms of 5%, 10%, 1% kind of things. It's exponential increase. If you talk about even the fab, TSMC is the major fab in the world, which they themselves will increase in the last 2 years at 4 times. In other words, every half year you get an increase. and that increase is not in proportionate with the TSMC increase to the chip manufacturer. The chip manufacturer adds their contribution in the journey, and finally they come back with the fuel cost increase, labor cost increase, and all this cost increase the end part as a chip is increased chip cost. And also I mentioned when you are talking about chips, they have also introduced a new factor which was never heard in the past, which is an expedition fee. So apart from the increased cost, there is an expedition fee. The cost increase is the journey where it is not on the new purchase orders. It is already available all the purchase orders in the current lead time situation, which maybe you have released a purchase order for next 76 weeks. The cost impact is imposed on all these 76 weeks open purchase orders. That is what the journey. Now over and above, in case you want to meet some urgent expectation of customers, you are secured maybe in a PCB or a product you have maybe think around 700, 800 parts are there. Maybe one part is not available in given case, and you find it too hard and you have to deliver, then it is only the cost you have to shell off a huge money, which is depending upon whatever they demand. It is called the expedition fee. It may be 1x, 2x, 3x, depending upon. As I mentioned, I don't want to mention the manufacturer, but even it was going for auctioning. So it's a bidding process. You bid for this stock. So highest bidder will take this stock. So the journey was last 2 years is really pathetic in terms of cost, in terms of delivery. Even there are cases I am ready to pay 10x, the parts are not available. This is also a journey with what we have passed through in the last 2 years. Only we are just seeing some good fog end of this year, maybe smooth a little bit. That's what we see as symptoms at this point of time. One of the chip vendor who used to having a lead time of 52 weeks, today is coming to something 45 weeks, is ready to ship. But again, this has another repercussion that you have planned your production ahead of time. The parts may not be required today. Again, the distributor will come, the parts will come to distributor, and distributor demands to take the delivery. And if you fail to take the delivery, chips are not available. If you take the delivery, it will hit your inventory. Over and above, you have to start paying to the suppliers. This is again choking the ecosystem in a different way. All these days, maybe up to end of this fiscal year, up to March 2024 beginning, you may find this situation. The cycle may start in other directions. As of now, there is no change in the cost structure. Cost structure remains same, no changes even for 72 weeks part. Only availability, there is a little improvement to the tune of anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. So the product cost, it will be continue for at least another 6 to 9 months, look like the same terms. Thank you.
Thank you. Scary. So Sanjeev, based on what he has been saying, how do you think that electronic manufacturing companies should manage in this situation?
Okay, there are two aspects. Firstly, as initially Mr. Devaraj mentioned, our dependency on component is completely on imports. So there is hardly any semiconductor or passive component manufacturing happening in India. Almost 95% components we import. So government has announced this semiconductor policy where we expect in the next 3 to 4 years there will be semiconductor fab, there will be ATMP packaging unit, and we will be to some extent Atmanirbhar about component manufacturing. But that is going to take another 3 to 4 years. So how one should tackle the current situation where you have these supply chain challenges? I will talk now generic, be it automotive electronics, be it consumer electronics or industrial electronics or telecom networking. Any product of electronics manufacturing can be categorized into 3 buckets: the A category components, B category components, and C category components. In A category components, you have microprocessors or microcontrollers or FPGA, where a lot of software and hardware efforts go, and there is no pin-to-pin replacement. Means I cannot remove Infineon controller and put in NXP controller, or I cannot use microchip or any such pin-to-pin replacement because there is a software, there is a hardware, and entire configuration is different. So for A category component, if possible, try to have 2 platforms. Don't depend on only one supplier for A category component. Coming to B category component like MOSFETs, transistors, diodes, there are at least 5 to 10 good suppliers available globally. So qualify every supplier. Don't again qualify only one supplier or two suppliers. You have all 5 or 10 suppliers, so approve all those suppliers into your bill of material. And same case with C category component like capacitors, resistors, inductors. Again qualify 5 or 10 suppliers, so you are not depending on only one vendor. So by this strategy, that for A category component you have 2 platforms, for B and C category you have approved 5 or 10 vendors, suppliers for same part. I think your dependency will be less. Again, you will able to negotiate because you have multiple suppliers supplying the same diode or same transistor. So you have a negotiation power at the beginning of the year when you are placing orders, and you can get better delivery commitments from those suppliers. So these are the 2 things I will say, that anyway ecosystem with government's new policies is getting created in India, but till then you follow these ABC analysis and plan in such a way that your dependency is not on one particular supplier, because monopoly will always put you in trouble. If that supplier has a problem in their wafer fab or their manufacturing unit, your production will get affected. So don't depend on one supplier. That's the advice.
Thanks, Sanjeev. Omer, as a startup, how do you think startups should face such challenges? Lead time, cost, suppliers. So what would you say on your experience?
Well, first of all, I have to say that some of the strategies that the panelists have talked about in terms of being able to pay much higher costs or being able to provide very, very long-term accurate forecasts and place NCNR orders. NCNR orders are orders that cannot be cancelled at a later stage. So an order placed today for a large quantity has to be picked up in the future. Now this is to be honest, sometimes out of reach for a smaller company. I mean, especially a company that's involved in a new product per se. You don't really have an accurate forecast of what's going to happen a couple of quarters down the line. You are looking to sell, and hopefully the market picks up. But however, you have to plan and in many cases, commit purchase of especially A-class components well in advance. Now this has been extremely challenging for a startup, and apart from that, also the constant price increases that literally, as mentioned, literally once a quarter you get a communication from your supplier saying that prices increased, sometimes as much as, I would say, a minimum of 10% every quarter. So these are challenges that startups have to face very, very differently when compared to established players that have have clarity of forecasting, etc. And the way that the strategies that we had to take, if I could put it into one word, to quote the Beatles, we got by with a little help from our friends. So this meant literally begging distributors to allocate small little quantities to us where available, asking contract manufacturers or EMS partners to bet on a particular company, bet on a particular technology, and place forecasts on behalf of a startup. In some cases, we'd even have to go to our customers and tell them that you will need, because of your higher purchasing power, you will need to procure the components in question over here, because first of all, we will not get the credit period. We certainly do not have the negotiation power, and certainly are not a large enough buyer of components to be allocated anything significant. So it's a lot of scrounging, it's a lot of follow up, a lot of trying to pick up components that have not been picked up by others, and make things work in that way. The biggest challenge has been making all of these calls in the absence of clarity of forecasting. That just has in many cases been a case of taking a call and sticking with it. This has worked out many times when demand has picked up. But one of the massive challenges that we faced is when demand has not materialized as expected. And as mentioned, the components arrive at the distributor then puts pressure on you to pick up the components. Now this becomes particularly challenging if it's a huge financial outlay for a startup, and this second layer of challenge has been the reality for many of the smaller companies. And as hopefully things are getting better, we really hope that the last quarter of this year should see an ease up in these situations, and maybe life will become a bit easier for startups.
Thanks, Omer. I'm going to ask Saritha to have the last word on this. To wrap up this session, what role do you feel stakeholders like the government, industry bodies, institutions play towards tackling the current challenges in making India an electronic manufacturing hub? I mean, we see the government talking of Arvind, we talk of big companies, but without a component ecosystem, everything is tilted growth. So how do you see, what can the role be of all the players in the ecosystem?
So I would say all of them play a really important role. I mean, the government of course is already doing a lot. Yeah, I mean, India can leverage right now on the opportunity to become an electronic manufacturing hub. And I would say the policy support from the government is really good. Whether we talk about the PLI for electronics, or we talk about the SPEC scheme or the ESDM scheme, even the national logistics policy, if you ask me, is really going to bring down the logistics cost. And the other schemes going on, or the other programs of the government on digitalization and things like that. I think all these are actually enabling us to become a real center for manufacturing and also exports, not just for local, for exports as well. The other points I think were also touched a lot by our colleagues and in the previous session as well. And I think for academia, startups, companies to work together, collaborate and partner with each other, I think this would be really the most important thing. The point which Omer was mentioning on design, right? This is something that we've had to do a lot in the last couple of years, yeah. And design-based manufacturing is a space that we really need to check. Going forward, how can we really optimize the designs, things like that? And all this is possible when there are people with different perspectives coming together to bring out a solution. The employment base for electronics is going to be high going forward, which means, of course, we have to have the right skilling programs in place, but it needs to be more value-added skilling programs. So what do I mean by that? It's not only about giving theoretical or lab-based inputs, it's about being able to make students at different levels experience the on-the-job excitement, if I can call it that, of working with electronics. Yeah? So you're upskilling them while they're getting a feel of the real world and developing their own skills to go into whether it's a management function, a line function, or an entrepreneurship kind of a role. So I would say collaboration is key for things to happen better, and we all need to leverage on the policies of the government and take it the full circle to make sure that we really are going to become a very good manufacturing hub for electronics.
Thanks, Saritha. Any more chances for questions? This is my second ask. Please, sir. Please direct it to whoever you would like to.
Yes, I guess it's almost good evening now. Good evening. I'm one of the founding members of Thai Saritha's chapter in Los Angeles. And I came down here to look for strategic partnerships. I'm the president CEO of Aviation Technologies International. And we have designed a very high performance, low cost, low maintenance business aircraft, 67 seat, using clean technology engines and fuels. So one of the things that I'm looking for is a strategic partner here who will build initially parts and later on, of course, build a full airframe for us and to be distributed in Asia. We don't want the Asian market. We don't want the Indian market. Our big markets are US, Europe, and Latin America. So we're going to focus on that, staying in US. But we certainly want to help entrepreneurs here who are interested in aerospace, aviation, to partner with us and there's certain incentives we are going to give them as well. So who would be the right person in your VentuRISE group for me to at least send out the information so all interested parties can actually get in touch with you locally here?
Yeah, I think this is extremely exciting. Would anybody on the panel like to respond to him? There's Madan, who is the president of TIE Bangalore, who is there. Madan, you should really take up what he's saying. Would anybody on the panel like to respond to him? Yeah, I think you can meet with Sanjeev and Devaraj.
Absolutely, once it's done.
Yeah.
And Madan, if you don't mind, we'll exchange cards and chat. I also had a chat with the executive director earlier on of TAR. So we'll do that. And
Yeah,
thank
sure.
you so much.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody else? We're a very diligent panel. We're finishing on time. I know you're waiting for the announcement of results. So I think we're done. Anybody has any last words? No, we're done. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Hello? Extra amount text ಕಳಿಸ್ಬೋಣ?
Hi, I'm Vinayak from Air Bharata. So my question is like on the supply chain, what is the effect of the increasing dollar price, and any solution on how to mitigate the rising dollar price, especially in procurement? So, yes, there.
Yeah, I think the question is very welcome. But in terms of dollar coverage, I think you can do a hedging actually on the dollar. Depending upon what is that your buy power you have, with that you can go for a hedging. So the hedging will help you out to smoothen that impact on dollar, so that which we have to work with your finance team. What is the total annual volume buy you have, and what is the visibility in terms of forecast you have for the dollar. With that, you can go for a hedging of dollar, which can smoothen it. Unless and otherwise, there is negative, positive effect. But many people will go for a hedging to smoothen that dollar sign curve. Did I answer your question? Thank you.
I was just wondering if I could just give a slightly different strategy as well. So yes, of course, hedging would be would be the right way to go about it. But if that is not a possibility, something that we've tried to do as a part of a lot of our quotations to our customers are define a dollar band. So if the dollar were to see a 3% appreciation in the period of supply, then we can automatically trigger a slight price increase. It's important, to put this out there at the at the get-go, especially as a smaller company, because trying to renegotiate prices with larger customers once supplies are started or in the middle of a particular supply season, it's near impossible. They've already made down the line contracts with their end customers as well. So it would be best to define this upfront at the quotation period as well. It's when a time of particular instability at the moment, it's important to take this into your quotation.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sushant Shetty. I run a channel called Speak with Sushant, where I moreover do celebrity interviews. But this is a technical session. I'm a technical guy also. My question here is we have a lot of problem statements today in the industry. Can there be any common platform where problem statements can be put in and problem solutions can be provided right there, even by anybody? Like, for example, I was just hearing some speakers saying that if you have a problem statement, they generally go approach IITs, IIMs for problem solutions. I say a common engineer like me can also provide us a common problem solution. But what we find difficult is that right platforms where we can go pose our problem solutions. So if there is a platform where all these problem statement, Bosch, Toyota, or any big companies for that matter, they post it in a place which is very common and diverse, can there be more feasible problem solutions given by common people like us or entrepreneurs like us? Anybody in the panel can give their perspective.
So, right now there is no such common platform available today, but every semiconductor manufacturer, they have created their own websites. Okay, if you have a challenge related to, let's say, Texas Instrument, or if you have NXP or Microchip or Renesas, all these suppliers, they have their website where you can pose a question, and then their all customers can see that question and reply back to you with the proper solution, because they must have gone through the similar problem during their development. Or if you have experienced something, you can also post that. But there is no such a common platform where across the industry you can have such solutions as of now. But it's a very good suggestion someone should think of. Yeah, it should be created because it's a very good requirement, and particularly startups, they really don't get direct technical support. So if someone has already solved that problem, then why to reinvent the wheel? You should have that solution readily available. So, correct. So for embedded electronics as such, there is no such common platform available. There are company-specific platforms available today.
And also some common things like this Kaizen implementation, 5 years and all this can be implemented throughout in all the industries. Doesn't matter, electronics, mechanical, any field for that matter. So now as a solution provider, if we get platforms to post our ideas based on the problem statement, it would be great, because we are facing lack of problem statement. But as a company, you have a lot of problem statement. But it is not reaching the solution provider is what I am trying to say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And by the way, that's such a good suggestion. And I think Madan was also mentioning to the previous panelists that he would like to have a session with him. I think definitely we can take up your suggestion and put it up to the companies. So I think we are running out of time.
I don't have a question. I just want to fill in a little. This is something similar to in legal fraternities. They have got for lawyers, for chartered accountants, and things like that. Similarly, for engineers also, this can be done, and for many other technical and technological issues.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I think we had a fantastic session. I would like to congratulate Madan and Tai for dealing with such a hard topic like electronics, manufacturing and components. Initially, I did feel a lot of opposition and saying, is this topic relevant? I said, you guys have no idea. In electronics, this is the burning topic. Without this, we cannot go forward in India as an electronics manufacturing country. So thank you, Madan, for addressing such a hard topic. And thank you to the panel, you guys have been wonderful.
Thank you so much, Poorinma. That was a wonderful panel discussion today. With right from discussing how you have to have a standby every time. I think that's what pandemic taught us. And it's very important to have a standby and also be very creative as as a startup founder. I think you have to be very creative, very imaginative in order to come up with a solution. So brilliant discussion today. There's so many takeaways, and so thank you so much, panelists, and Poorinma for holding it through all through. And here's a little token of our appreciation for all your efforts. Maybe Poorinma, you can go ahead and. We were planning to call him to give it to you.